Om Jnanatirmirandasya Yananjanan Shalakaya Sakshuronmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubheva patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, 42 years ago, on this day, on the 7th of October, 1975, Srila Prabhupada was here in South Africa. In a few hours' time, history would record that he gave a talk at the Durban City Hall. And when he was concluding his lecture, he made, just at the second last sentence of his lecture, he said something like this. Well, I'm going to quote it verbatim. And this human form of life is meant for that purpose. If you don't utilize it for our next elevation, then one is committing suicide. This Krishna conscious movement is intended to inform you of this impending suicide. So the first responsibility of any great leader is that he must be able to define reality, whether it's in the business world or the spiritual world, or however, reality, the facts of what we have around you, is what defines a great leader. So nobody could argue that Srila Prabhupada is therefore the greatest leader, because he was able to define reality. Had he not defined reality, many of us would probably still be in illusion. We have no reason to do what we do and dress the way we dress and eat the way we eat and behave the way we behave if Srila Prabhupada didn't infuse in us that particular type of reality. This conference, the 8th BBT Africa conference, is hosted and intended to infuse that outreach, that evangelistic spirit that Srila Prabhupada had, to try and prevent people, humanity, from committing suicide. It's my duty also, on this occasion. We had a meeting earlier this year in Italy, and the world of Vaishnavas were stunned when His Holiness Srila Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj indicated that he was going to retire. Now, if you know the BBT and you understand that Maharaj has been the bedrock of the BBT, he was Srila Prabhupada's editor-in-chief, and to be the editor-in-chief for Krishna's pure devotee in the history of our sampradaya and where we are is not an ordinary thing. Help preserve the doctrinal integrity. So with love and gratitude, Maharaj, we'd like to take a moment to offer you our respects and thank you profusely for everything you've done for the BBT, that you will continue to do for the BBT, and that we have learned from you. In BBT Africa, we started off from, if you follow integers, it's minus. We kind of had, no understanding about what needs to happen. Maharaj had come and very patiently taught us step by step, and we know something. At least we've got the pegs in the ground. We have the template of what Srila Prabhupada wanted. You may know that in Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's lifetime, he had written many, many books. But at the time of his passing, these books were not published. It's Srila Bhaktisiddhanta who took the order, who took the responsibility and the duty to have these books published. Of course, in Srila Prabhupada, because he had such capable disciples, it's fair to say that the BBT that Prabhupada established, Maharaj and many other devotees, have ensured that all of Srila Prabhupada's books, everything he said, is recorded for posterity. Now, as we change the guard, there are many devotees who perform many special services to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada's literary warfare on ignorance was facilitated by many devotees through art, through his lectures. The time has come that many of Srila Prabhupada's disciples are retiring, going back home, back to Krishna. And their duty and responsibility to carry that legacy in that pure form from one hand to the other, as a disciplic succession intends us to do, falls upon us, believe it or not, all of us sitting in here. It's a responsibility and duty we have to take. It's a sacred duty that you and I have. Whether you're an artist or an editor or a manager, we have to take that responsibility. We cannot say, well, somebody's going to do it in the future. We're looking for somebody in the future. The time is now, 2017. The GBC body is moving in this direction. The entire ISKCON world is moving in this direction. And we've just heard Marge crystallize why that's important. Now, there is a symbiotic relationship between ISKCON and the BBT. Srila Prabhupada said, ISKCON is my body and the BBT is my heart. So we don't read a book. Generally, people read the author. The Bhaktivedanta Book Trust is totally dedicated to preserve the one author's work. That's His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Because Srila Prabhupada said that for the next 10,000 years, my books are law books for mankind. Everything you and I and our descendants and those who come after us want to know is in Srila Prabhupada's books. Once Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said that the Gaudiya literature will no longer in the future be confined to the Bengali community or to Bengali-speaking people. In a short time, it'll expand. And it'll expand with full brilliance throughout the world in many languages, which is what Srila Prabhupada did. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta added one more sentence to that line that he was speaking on. He said it'll also go into the languages of the birds, the beasts, and the vegetable tribes. So what to speak of humanity? The intention clearly is to give every living entity the opportunity to know who Krishna is and to find the love for Krishna. In part, Srila Prabhupada fulfilled to the human species. I think we have everything there. The BBT has produced it. All we have to do is distribute it. So the salvation of humanity is hinged very strongly on BBT's full productivity and ISKCON's full surrender to the founder Acharya's instructions on book distribution. Now, 6 years ago, I reported that we had 7 concerns. We were in a fledgling state, African BBT. Today, I'm very happy to convey to you, and because you are the transcendental shareholders of Srila Prabhupada's movement, this is almost like an annual general meeting where we're coming to account to you. I'm very happy to say that 6 of these 7 challenges we had have been resolved. So we are moving and moving forward. We had no book production capability. Today we are able to produce a book in a month, of the highest standard, have it printed anywhere in Africa, and have it ready for distribution. At the time we said Nigeria or West Africa was unsupplied. It was difficult to get books into the borders of those countries. We have since, with collaboration with India, cracked that code. We're able to send books easily to West Africa, even Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, etc. Then we said we had no finality on the BTG strategy. It seemed to be suspended. 20 years ago, when I was the temple president at Shri Radha Temple, we were doing 6,000 subscribers, and now, 20 years later, we're still around 6,000 subscribers. So one would ask, what is happening? There's no traction. Give and take a few, we've not moved much. So then we needed a strategy for a seismic shift in the way BTG operates. And we have that, and we'll share that with you. Then we said we needed a place to work from, a facility to sit and plan and strategize and build capacity and capability. A few days ago, I'm happy to inform you, and you'll see it later on, that we've opened our very own BBT Africa head office, paid for, equipped, fully capacitated for us to launch Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement into Africa. Then we said we had no African artists enrolled. We cannot just print books with covers and designs that could be offensive to local culture. So we needed to get, African artists. So we're looking for artists so we can paint these covers and design them appropriately so we can reach communities outside of the Indian community. Then we had a translation office, believe it or not, in Kenya. One little room. That office closed and I panicked because it was the only reality we had at that time. Today we have people translating all over Africa, in the DRC, across Africa. We have His Grace Mahaprasad Govinda Prabhu here, who's translating into Amharic. You'll hear from him later on. It's the language of Ethiopia. And we had an unclear supply line. Very happy to say again, we've removed that dotted line. We are able now to print. We have a license to print. We do green printing. We're sensitive to the environment. All our paper is FSC compliant. And we're good to go. Now, just focus your attention on the number 516. It's amazing. It's amazing that we're able to distribute 516 million pieces of literature in 51 years, from 1966 to now. That means 10 million books per annum, or something like 20 books per second. If you do the calculation, South Africa's contribution to that must be, in my estimate, 0.01%. Now that's not good. We have to get at least to a single digit, which is 1% plus, and then get to double digits, 10% plus. Believe it or not, just to get to 10%, it means we have 200 people here. If 200 people distribute 50 books a year, we'll reach that 10%. So there has to be some intelligence, some planning, some discussion like we're doing now. We get together, clear out the bottlenecks, try and understand why we're not getting to these numbers. And I can assure you that maybe the demigods in the heavens and all our acharyas are looking down at this electronic scoreboard of 516 million in Kali Yuga. The only salvation that these persons in Kali Yuga have is the need for knowledge. And they're looking at these numbers turn, and Africa's numbers don't appear on that scoreboard. So our task is to ensure that we get Africa's numbers on that scoreboard. Otherwise, what other weapon do we have to be able to preach in this age? Now, we have Africa. The whole of Africa is our market. Trust me, nobody, it's not the North American BBT or the Chinese BBT or the Latin BBT is competing to come into Africa. Africa belongs to Africa. We have the entire African continent to distribute books to. By 2030, it says that 50% of Africans would be living in urban areas. It's fantastic news for us because it's easier and quicker we could reach them. Africans consume they spend $1.4 trillion a year. Do you know what BBT Africa's sales a year is? I can't hardly say it because these numbers are it's 3 million rand. It's $300,000. We are so far off the mark. Devotees are agents of divine mercy. When Srila Prabhupada visited South Africa, he gave 3 very specific instructions. He said, build a temple in Chatsworth. We've done that. He said, install Jagannath deities. We've done that in Phoenix. Then he said, preach to the local people. Preach to the local people. Unfortunately, if you look around this room, you would see that we haven't done that. We've tried, we haven't put our best effort behind it, we haven't been successful in that endeavor. If we want to please Srila Prabhupada, we have to, in our lifetimes, fulfill that order that he gave us. And we have a great opportunity to do that. Now, if you look at this map, this is Africa showing you it's a very rich continent. It's got asbestos, bauxite, coal, manganese, lithium, gold, copper. The Chinese are all over Africa looking for these diamonds and tantalite. We are looking for the real bhushan, the real ornament. We are looking for those devotees of Krishna who are in those rural villages, in those cities, just waiting for a book to be placed in their hands. Whatever it takes, we have to get these books to the 1 billion Africans living on the African continent. Each book has somebody's name on it. All we have to do is get those books out. And that's the most precious metal that we could share. That precious metal is Srila Prabhupada's books. This is what Srila Prabhupada wanted, Africa rising. It's our duty, our responsibility. We need to take ownership of it. Devotees of Lord Chaitanya are strategic. They're able to plan. They know when, how, and why. I say it's Africa's turn. I think we've invested enough. We've got enough capacity. We've got enough infrastructure. If you look at South Africa, we have 100 million rand worth of properties. We have 2,500 initiated devotees. We've got all the capacity to be able to launch a very serious book distribution initiative to fulfill what Srila Prabhupada wanted. And let's start with Gauteng first. We're all Gauteng devotees here. It's the most important city in Africa, 30% of Africa's GDP. Clearly, it's something where we are here in Johannesburg that we could do, something we could make an effort for. Now look at this. What you see here is not impossible. These are our devotees in Ghana. Over 300 or 400 initiated devotees. When we come back for the next conference, this is what we want to see in the audience. Prabhupada wanted this. We have a duty to fulfill this. These are not devotees who BBT just got together to take a picture to try and use it as a marketing thing. These are real devotees chanting Hare Krishna. They live Vaishnav lives in Accra. And you can see, when we had the conference there, they were very enthusiastic about book distribution. So it's an opportunity for us and the leaders to strategize in this regard. Here's something interesting. We begin with baby steps, okay? Yeah, the first book was translated into Lingala language 2 months ago. It was the introduction to Bhagavad Gita as it is. Within 2 months, one devotee in the middle of the DRC, just one devotee, who has a fire in his heart, that evangelistic spirit burning so red hot, he couldn't wait. He put so much of pressure on me to print this book. I'd never been pressured by anybody in my life. But this person pressurized me so much. The moment he got those books, within 2 months, he distributed 3,466 of the 5,000 I gave him. So if one person can carry that kind of flame, not only he translated it, he facilitated it with the printer, got it in his hands and put it out. And that's what we are meant to be doing. And we have a plan. We have a plan to reach beyond. The best way to share the opulence of the absolute is, I think, coming in Africa is smartphones. This is an opportunity that we have not seized with both hands. We have an idea, we know it works. Everybody has a smartphone, especially here in Africa. And we are very serious about this. One does not receive a letter from the Supreme Lord instructing us. We hear from his devotees. So what we've heard from Srila Prabhupada and what we have, this Raja Vidya, a king of knowledge, we have to make it available. And make it available at their fingertips. The mobile phone has become almost like a part of the human anatomy. Like you have 2 hands and 2 legs and an eye. It's like this phone is like a retractable organ of the body. You'll never see a human being walking anywhere without this phone close to him. One would almost think that it's like it's so irretractable. I think even when they go to bed, they have this phone at their bedside. So our idea is to put Krishna's message on these phones and find a way of circulating that. We keep a very close eye on what's happening on the internet side. You look here very carefully, you'll see in 2010, Africa as a country only grew 2%. Only 10%, 1 in 10 people living on the African continent has access to the internet. That's interesting. If you look at the internet world statistics, by June 2017, this didn't change. It was still 10%. Hence, mobile phones is a very serious platform because there are more persons using mobile phones than persons using internet. And believe it or not, English-speaking language, English, in Nigeria, which is the most populous country in Africa, together with Ghana and South Africa, forms 30% of the English-speaking community on the African continent. It means 1 in 3 persons are speaking English. So we're also looking for new English titles, new fresh English titles, new provocative books with fantastic covers that would come out to try and reach these persons. Then you'll know that, as I said before, you'll hear more from Jai Lalita about Back to Godhead magazine. Prabhupada said, it's the backbone of the Hare Krishna movement. So we heard about ISKCON being the body, BBT being the heart. Srila Prabhupada is now saying it's the backbone. So it's the anatomy that we're talking about, phones, etc. We want to do something with BTG. You would see here in a memo that His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj penned in 26 November 2011. He said, planning for the future of BTG. Those planning discussions have been going on, and the world has been somewhat. I sit on the global board of BTG. We've been paralyzed to try and find a solution. We couldn't move left, we couldn't move right, we just stuck. We started creating international meetings in Mumbai every year, global collaboration to try and see how to get past, making BTG relevant to this. When it arrives in the subscriber's hand, it's relevant. And he wants to receive it, he wants to pay for it. So we started having some conversations, and the global BTG board started to focus on trying to renew, reposition, strengthening. We all accepted we needed a new strategy, particularly because this was the magazine of the Hare Krishna movement, but nobody in the Hare Krishna movement is reading the magazine. The world print run is 15,000 copies. Half of that comes to South Africa. Of course, in India, it's 1.2 million, but the fact is the Western world is 15,000 copies. So, in my boldness, as I, had to become a little, what can I say, arrogant about trying to get this thing fixed up, we've had tough conversations. And we're saying that because Africa or South Africa is the world's biggest subscriber, you have to listen to us. We're telling you that this magazine has to be made relevant. And we want devotional views on world matters. So we're going to the global board in a month's time with a very bold proposal. I've put the first page of my proposal here. And in this proposal, we are saying that at least 8 pages of the BTG in every part of the world that's printed must have local news. So you'll see BTG with South African and African articles, South African and African devotees. And we have a strategy of how to do that. So I think it's a bold move. It's a seismic shift in the way things work. We'll try it for a year and see where we get to. Then we're also looking at, doing a Braille book. I'm disappointed that we couldn't do it for this conference. We tried to do it for this conference. We slipped up on this. We have it in our expiry diary. Before the year is out, or in the first quarter of next year, we want to produce our first Braille book because it's being requested, and I think it's a very nice opportunity to give Krishna consciousness to all persons. And as I said before, the joys of being in the BBT is going to the printer, smelling that paper, negotiating the price, new titles, new books, new countries, and we expect this to increase. We are able to do, and we plan to do 1 book a month. We have an inventory, a pipeline of books that are being prepared and ready for printing purposes. This book here is the Lingwala one that we've done, and you can see it's very high quality. We try and print in the local countries. This particular book was printed in the DRC. So we try and print in the local countries to avoid the complication of logistics and transport. And a good mascot to books is pamphlets. You would know that BBT Africa has done many, many pamphlets. It's on its website. You can go download it, print it, distribute it, choose the language of your choice. It's there and available. And we want temples and devotees in Africa to feel free. You'll find it in all languages, including Creole. And then we've heard concerns about design, the covers. We want to connect culturally to our audience. We want to make sure that the covers are relevant. These are the first 2 books we've done. You would be interested to know that the first Gaudiya books printed before the time of Srila Prabhupada, they were blotchy. It's printed on coarse paper, handset type. They were indistinct photos. Yet those pieces of literature, they challenged the untruths and the half-truths of the secular world. And it's just provocative. It entered society in a way that although it wasn't high-quality printing, it caused people to stop and think. Today we are printing high-quality books, as I'm saying, FSC, green paper, and we want to continue challenging these untruths and for the purpose of life and the metaphysical part of life. But to do all of that, we need persons to distribute the books. We can print them, but how do we get them out? We've got to get them out hand to hand, So what we need your help. We need your help desperately. If you'd like to serve this great cause, Srila Prabhupada was so profound in his instructions about book distribution that it must be the greatest cause as defined by our Sampradaya. There can be no other greater cause than this. Where Krishna himself says, "Is none so dear to me than he who preaches my glories." So we need translators in all languages. We have a greater need for editing. We have a greater need for proofreading, and we have the greatest need for design and layout. So if you have these skill sets, you know of somebody who has these skill sets, please refer them to Kirisha or myself. We want to try and attract these quality of devotees to be involved in producing Srila Prabhupada's books. So Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. Krishna is the cause of all causes. And these books are none different from Krishna. Therefore Srila Prabhupada is saying here, the source of all auspiciousness. If you simply push on this one activity of distributing my books, your all success will be there. Now where success is concerned, people don't measure the success by the inches or pounds, by the degrees they have, but actually by the size of their thinking. If you study Srila Prabhupada's management style, the size of his thinking was legendary. Srila Prabhupada he wasn't constrained by anything. He'd ask somebody who never touched a magazine to go produce a magazine. He had this huge, he was, you would say, optimistic, but Srila Prabhupada had, his thinking wasn't constrained. So it's something we need to do. We got to find ideas and solutions of how to move our strategy forward. So let's get out of this situation we are in, where we're not able to produce double-digit figures in our book distribution. Our minds may give us some objections. We need to find a way to increase our own individual effort. We cannot rely on other devotees, the temples. The temples can facilitate as much as they can. Temple presidents try very hard to encourage devotees to distribute book. But it has to become a personal vow. Your own individual commitment that I will do 50 books a year, and pace it out the way you want to pace it out. But commit it and do it. So here we have a Distribute Books website to help inspire you. This website is connected to the African BBT website. We have new titles. You'll see regular titles coming out. We have plans for more English titles. And you'll see BTG at the forefront. We want to make it more relevant to South African news, to get it on time. At the moment when we print BTG, we are now printing the January issue, and we are in October because of the logistics chain in the world. So by the time the world has passed us, by the time it reaches us, so that day we'll be able to deal with. At all the South African National Council meetings, and our chairman of the National Council is sitting here, will bear testimony to this. All the temple presidents, all 18 of those project leaders, when they assemble for the National Council meetings, like we're going to do in a few weeks' time in Cape Town, we start those meetings at 2-hour Sankirtan on the street. Every temple president goes out, and it's great fun. I was Namacharya and Radhasham Prabhu's partner recently. And it's great fun, wasn't it? Yes. And we have our book distribution minister. Is Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu here? Where is Vibhu Chaitanya? Hare Krishna, Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu. From the time we appointed a minister of book distribution, what a difference it has made. Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu has single-handedly brought some freshness to the way book distribution is done. And through his efforts, we are seeing lots of temples getting going. We're seeing better planning. We're seeing scores being reported. And he has the vision, the ability, and the dedication, and we're grateful to Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu for his efforts, and we'll hear from him personally later on. And of course, as BBT Africa, we are absolutely your servants. We remain so. We're open to your suggestions, to your criticisms, to your advice. No matter how menial you think something might be, if it enhances the cause of book distribution, and if BBT Africa can help do it, rest assured the team that's here will move the earth to assist you. We're here only to facilitate your book distribution efforts. So I want to thank you for your attention, and we have a lot of detail coming up, so I wanted to just give you a helicopter view. Things that we're thinking about, things that we've failed on, what we need to improve on, and we're going to sit down and make some notes as you go through the detailed presentations of the other BBT devotees who are coming on board. But you must remember that this conference or this gathering is primarily to hear from you, how we can serve you better. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you.